So I got influenced. I read a book on branding and it made some compelling points with how to present a website in an effective manner. So I took some gold nuggets and I decided what better thing to do than to have my own law firm website be a guinea pig for the Law Venture community members. So I made some changes. And I'll be honest with you, if you look at the actual appearance of the website, it hasn't changed that much. But that's not the most important thing. It's all about the presentation of the information that you want the potential client to consume and how they consume it. So the question is the website now more effective in that manner or not? I'll leave that up to you. But in this video, I'm going to share with you what changes were made, why they were made, and how they were made. All of that and more coming up. Welcome to Law Venture, a channel devoted to lawyers wanting to take their legal career to the next level. My name's Jarrett Stone. I'm the owner of Stone Firm P LLC, but more importantly, I'm your guide to talking about legal websites. And just a heads up, if you're on YouTube right now, first things first, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. That way you can see future content as it's rolled out. Second things second, head over to lawventure.com and you can check out the free online course to building your own law firm website. It's a lot easier than you may be expecting. If you're interested in the free online course, I'll slide a link above so you can go check it out. So let's lay a little bit of foundation on why I decided to make changes to my law firm's website, because it all begins with me opening up a book. Technically, it's a digital book, so there was no actual physical opening, but you get the point. Anyway, so I decided to read Donald Miller's book called Building a Story Brand. Clarify your message so customers will listen. If you're interested in checking out this book, I'll provide a link down in the description below. Who reads a book on branding for fun? This guy apparently does. And my hope, based on the reviews that I saw with this book, was to hopefully maybe take a few gold nuggets here and a few gold nuggets there of concepts to ultimately implement with my law firm and the law firm's website. Now with this video, I'm going to oversimplify the book to an insulting degree, and I hope the author never actually watches this video because I'm going to leave a lot of the details out and just include the concepts that I found important that kind of relate to this video more than anything else. And so let's go through those concepts one by one before we actually go through how I implemented the concepts in my updated website. First, the book talks about, and I'm going to translate it in the legal context so it's more relevant for this video, that you need to narrow the potential client's desire to a single focus. The concept here is very similar to having to simplify a case for trial. If you try and focus on too many things and you try and fight too many battles, then most likely the potential client or the jury, if you're in person at a trial, is going to have a bit of analysis paralysis, be confused, and maybe hold it against you for being the one that confused them. Second, this single focus needs to be on an internal problem, not an external problem. So the concept here is less focus on, I'm gonna get you money, I'm gonna get you paid, which is an external problem, and more focus on connecting with the potential client with their internal struggles. Third, in the story that you're trying to tell, there needs to be a villain of sorts. Now this concept gets to a very eye-opening concept that's kind of the theme of the entire story brand book, which is that whenever you're trying to paint this story, the hero of the story that's trying to defeat the villain is not you, it's not the lawyer. The hero of the story is the client. And this is something that really made me stop, think, and maybe take a step back and look at my website in a different way. My takeaway from the concepts in the book involving the villain and the story really start to make sense whenever I think about it. Everyone is so wrapped up in their day-to-day lives. Typically, people see themselves as the main character in the story of their own lives, which makes total sense. And so if you try and portray yourself as the hero in somebody else's story because they have the problem that they're trying to overcome, then you're basically saying, look, even though this is your problem, this is your issue, this is your experience that you're going through, you're not the focus here. You're not the hero, the lawyer is. And I can actually see how that can be very off-putting to where it's like, no, the focus isn't on trying to bolster the lawyer. The focus is on me trying to prevail over this problem and situation that I'm going through. And so the book says that not lawyer specifically, but the business or the entrepreneur in this situation, let's just go ahead and say the lawyer, needs to position themselves not as the hero, but as the guide to the hero, aka the potential client, so that the guide can take the potential clients from problem to solution. Fourth, since we need to be the guide to the hero, then the focus of the website needs to be on the client's success, not ours. Whenever you stop focusing on yourself and you put more energy in focusing on your client, then your business will take off. And that makes sense. You take care of others. The law of reciprocity means that it'll ultimately be returned back to you. At least that's the hope, that's the goal. So have a villain. Your hero's going to be the potential client turned client, and you are the guide so that the hero of this story prevails ultimately. And that's the presentation that I wanted to implement in my website. Fifth, two powerful factors in converting a potential client into a client are empathy and authority. In other words, can you connect with potential clients emotionally, and can you establish yourself as an authority in your space? Okay, so with that foundation laid, let's hop into the computer so you can see the changes that I made implementing these concepts. Okay, so we are in the computer at this point in time, and unfortunately, I didn't think this one through. I did not save a copy of the homepage before I made changes to it in order to show you the before and after on the website. The next best thing that I have just for ease of use here is the screen share that I shared in this particular YouTube video that you're looking at right now. So I went ahead and paused it at the very top of what the website used to look like so you can take a look at exactly what it used to look like. But the question is, does the website with its first impression, does it have a single focus? Is it portraying me as the hero, or is it portraying me as the guide? Is there a villain in this story? Is there a focus on client success, not ours? Am I trying to connect with empathy, establish myself as an authority? I don't feel like any of this is really happening at this point in time with the hero image. I think, unfortunately, based on how it was originally presented, in order to accomplish and maybe check off any of these boxes, the person who's viewing this, the potential client, is gonna have to keep scrolling. And the less scrolling that somebody is doing, the better. Okay, so we are on the website, and this is what it looks like now. I kept it simple while also maybe complicating things a little bit, to where instead of one single photo, you have a collage of photos as well. And basically what I did was take all the photos throughout this website with all the reviews, and I made a collage here at the very top. The concept here is that I want people to see smiling faces at the very beginning and at the very top of the website before they see anything else, to help establish that authority and to show that there are people just like the potential client that have been helped by this law firm. And I want to be the first one to confess, having me at the center of this collage bigger than everyone else tends to lean in more of a hero image-esque photo. But I tried other alternative approaches, and it looked like a Where's Waldo? Like, where's the lawyer that's part of this law firm and website? Where is he? Okay, is he this good looking chap up here? No, okay, maybe he's someone else. And then you have to scroll in order to get that information later. I didn't want to have that type of confusion. I wanted to kind of stand out a little bit with this collage, to where, okay, I'm gonna maybe bite the bullet a little bit to where there's hero-esque elements to it, but maybe I can cure that as we continue on through the changes that were made on this website. So let's go through our checklist very quickly here. We have a single focus, which is peace of mind, which is an internal problem, not an external problem. We don't necessarily have a villain yet. We haven't necessarily positioned ourselves as a guide. If anything, I've kind of leaned towards a hero because I'm, again, standing out. I'll be the first to admit that. And then we're not necessarily focusing on the client success with this photo, but the goal is to focus on client success with the text here. And then the goal is to also establish myself as an authority with all the happy smiling faces of previous clients, and to connect and show empathy by showing that, look, I know that you're struggling with peace of mind right now with what you're going through. So checking off a lot of the boxes at this stage as a first impression. Okay, so we're back over on the screen share within the YouTube video, looking at the original version of the website. Let's go ahead and click play so you can kind of see the scroll here. And as you can see, looking for free legal advice, here's how to get started. There are links with car wreck and class action. I just took class action out, you'll see that. But again, there's not necessarily anything to where there's a single focus. We're not focusing on the hero being the potential client. We're not focusing on empathy or authority quite yet. At this stage, there's been considerable amount of scrolling and not a lot of execution on the game plan that we've learned about and that we've talked about. So let's keep scrolling a little bit. And then we have reviews. So the reviews kind of establish empathy and they kind of establish authority, but they don't necessarily hit home any type of strong message as a first impression. And so that's something that I wanted to remedy with the changes to the website. So let's take a look at the website now. Okay, so back to the website. Let's do a little bit of scrolling to get oriented here. So notice that the hero image from the original version is now here. I wanted to keep it because I like how conversational and relaxing it appears to be. And then I have kind of a conversation going on over here to actually introduce myself, because what I realized was whenever I made the first version of this version 2.0 that I hadn't actually introduced myself quite yet. And so I still needed to take the opportunity to introduce myself as the guide and to show that I can connect on some form of fashion with the internal struggles that the potential client is going through. So I wanted to start with an attention getter of sorts, because if you start here and then scroll down and you see a lawyer and I have no idea what I'm doing, the question is, whoa, did the lawyer just say that? And so it's going to make someone hopefully want to keep reading. And I have here, I hear this on a regular basis from people. So no, that's not me saying it. It's me quoting what I'm hearing from regular people. So after being injured by someone else, they're afraid of being taken advantage of. If this resonates with you, then allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jarrett Stone, and I help people go from huh to happy. Want to see how? Keep reading. And so this probably isn't the best written prose that you'll ever see. I wanted to keep it very simple, not something that people are going to have to dwell on. They can keep scrolling and get to the juicy details of what we're about to go through. But at the same time, I wanted to position myself as the guide to where, my name is Jarrett Stone. I help people go from huh to happy, and I'm trying to establish them as the character. Speaking of characters though, we haven't necessarily talked about the villain. My fear with having and introducing a villain and just have it, kind of up front and center on this website is that if I have this big villain, then they may think that this is going to be some huge fight, and when it comes down to it, they just may not be up for the fight. So the approach that I ended up taking was a lot more subtle. The villain that I really wanted to have here was stress. One of the most common things that I hear talking to clients and potential clients is that they feel so stressed out by the process whenever they give me that first call. The reason for that is they're not trained in how to handle the legality of the situation. They don't really have much experience with the situation. They're afraid of being taken advantage of. They have stress about having to go and get treatment. They have stress about how their injuries are going to affect their day-to-day lives. They have stress about how their injuries are going to affect their future lives. They have stress about the property. They have stress about whenever the property is being repaired, how are they going to get to and from where they need to go? They have a lot of stress. And so I made stress be the villain, but I'm not necessarily trying to overplay it to where it comes off like I'm trying to manipulate the situation. I'm trying to be a little bit more subtle. Now, whether or not that's actually executed in what's being presented of what you've seen, I'll leave that up to you. I may need to come in a little bit more heavy-handed on that aspect, but I'm hoping it is executed pretty clearly when somebody who is stressed out sees peace of mind and sees this next important thing. So the next thing underneath this image, we can see here's my personal injury playbook. Quick clarification though, the PI playbook that I'm launching as an online course showing lawyers how they can launch their own PI practice on a shoestring budget is different from this PI playbook. Different contexts, so hopefully you're not too confused there. But the point here is here's my personal injury playbook, the step-by-step process for having a successful case. And it goes through the 8-step process that I tell every potential client on the phone. But what I've come to learn is that in the very few instances where I do not convert a potential client to a client after I've spoken with them on the phone, there's one common theme that I see across the board. They all suffer from analysis paralysis. At this point in my career, when I'm on the phone with someone, I know the concerns that they have, I know the questions that they have, and I can answer every single one of them. But sometimes, with these few exceptions of people, they have analysis paralysis because the stress they're going through is so much that you think that the stress would cause them to gravitate towards getting represented, but they get so overwhelmed with the entire process. Even if you spoon feed them the situation and the game plan, they just decide, yeah, I'm just going to leave it alone, or I'm going to try and do it myself because that's the one thing I control is what I'm doing, and they're afraid of being taken advantage of. But more often than not, what I end up seeing is that they're so overwhelmed that they feel like they need to get feedback from either a parent or they need to get feedback from a significant other, and that person's not on the phone call. And so because they're so overwhelmed, what they end up doing is poorly portraying the benefit and the value that I give as the lawyer on the case to that important person in their lives. And in doing so, that ends up having a miscommunication of sorts where it's like, maybe we don't need a lawyer, or maybe we need maybe another lawyer, or maybe X, Y, and Z. They end up having more questions than answers, and it complicates things tremendously. In those situations, I've realized that even if I try on the phone call to say, hey, look, here's the 8-step process. Step 1, here it is. Step 2, here it is. What happens is that when people are stressed out, their brain's going 100 million miles a second, they stop, they ask questions. Okay, I have a concern about this, I have a concern about that. And that causes a natural segue into something else. And so this 8-step process that I tend to go through ends up becoming a little bit more jumbled, and it's not necessarily as clear as 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8. It's, okay, let's talk about this, which touches on that, and then it touches on this, then it touches on that. Then at the end, I try and do a good job of like, okay, just so everyone's on the same page, here's kind of the short summary of what we talked about, and try and recap it. But sometimes people are just like so exhausted from the conversation, or their brain is just spinning, and it's like, I don't know, drinking out of a fire hydrant of information. It's just too much. In those situations, it's the confusion, the lack of clarity that causes a problem. What I always do is say, look, let me go ahead and get your email. You don't have to sign up, but let me send you the paperwork. That way, if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer the questions about the paperwork. And when I send that email, I include a link to my website, typically for them to establish or see me as an authority by them seeing all the reviews on my website. But I've now included this playbook to help establish more clarity so that they can kind of either get a review of what we talked about or have an outline and a blueprint to be able to talk to maybe their significant other or their best friend or their parent about exactly what I do. And they can use this playbook as a guideline to making sense of the entire process as a whole. That one was a lot. I hope it made sense. If it didn't, maybe rewind the last, I don't know how long I just talked for, however long that was, watch it again. And if you have any other questions about that particular section, leave those down in the comment section below. Let's keep scrolling. You can see a button that I basically copied here, pasted here, and then here's the last thing that I added, which is something that I probably should have added a long time ago. A little bit of a table of contents, so to speak, because as you can tell from this scrolling, there's a lot going on with this website, a lot of reviews. There's also sections that I think are very important. My original philosophy was, yeah, I'm going to make the person who's on the website scroll through this entire website in order to get to the juicy details. And in doing so, there's no way they miss all these reviews. I've come to realize that, yeah, that's a little bit hardcore. That's too much forcing upon someone. So I'm going to make their lives a little bit easier to where they can click on one of these sections and then immediately go to that particular section. But to marry the two philosophies, I added an effect to where it basically scrolls them to that section instead of just jumping to that section. For example, if I click this, it scrolls them through all the reviews that you just saw and gets them to this section to where they can get additional information. In order to get back to the table of contents, they got to scroll through all the important juicy sections as well. Okay, so I promised to show you also how I was able to make these changes. So I won't go through every single detail. I feel like that will be super boring for you, but let's just get oriented with what's going on. Now, if we take a look at, let's get to the background section, you can see that this entire blue paper that's going on plus the collage is actually one single photo. You go to background style, you can see the new header. So this isn't an individual photo that's an image. It's instead the entire background. So this text is actually being overlaid on the photo as a whole. Let's move on. This one right here, the only trickiness going on is that I added borders and corners to make this effect to match the color scheme of the website. As you can see, I added the color here, added 8 pixels worth of an edge, and then curved the corners of the photos by using this and scrolling up to 26. So everything kind of looks nice and clean. This bad boy right here, this icon, is something that I learned on Thrive Themes' YouTube channel. They're always releasing quick tips similar to what I'm doing right now. So basically what we have is an icon inside of this content box as a whole. You can see it's, it's inside of it, but it was moved out of it. I think that hopefully makes sense. That's for the purpose of finding it, you got to go inside the content box, but it's kind of poking out of it a little bit visually. With this icon, floating it behind everything, I guess floating this on top of the icon, this adds some levels of depth to the actual website, which I always think is cool. I have the same thing going on here with the scales of justice in the background there. So with this little icon, the real trick is, one, finding your icon, finding the right size that works for you, and then going to layout and position, clicking advanced, clicking absolute, choosing kind of where you want that starting point to be. And then you can move the icon wherever you want it to go. And then the trick is making sure the Z index is 0 and anything you want to float on top of it to be a Z index that's higher. I think I did it based off of, so based off of the columns, I just moved the bad boy up to 38, which is overkill, but it's definitely going to put this on top of that. One final thing to note here is we have an icon that has a background style that's the same color as this content box. And then we have borders going on to where it creates this circular pattern going around it. And then we have the movement of the icon to where the -32 brings it up and down. That's gonna bug me if that's not exact, bear with me. And then we have it centered to where it creates this effect of it kind of going above the box. I said content box earlier. This is actually a column where background style is the same. And the trick is, in order to make this something clickable, is to actually have this as a button, because you can't do a column as a button. So this is actually a text within a button, within a column, within columns, within the content box, within the background section, kind of like Inception. But with the button, that allows us to go to main options and do this button right here, which is a jump link. And then you click on any parts after you click on the jump link of where you want it to go. Add the smooth animation in order for it to have that scrolling factor. And then when people are actually scrolling, they click this, which looks like they're clicking the entire thing, but in reality, it's the button. Just for full transparency, let's go back to the button. Background style. Oh, it's transparent. So that's why it shows up as the exact same. I didn't change the color. You could make it the same color and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but because it's transparent, it ends up accomplishing the same goal. So yeah, that's how these edits were made. Honestly, these edits didn't really take too long once you get more comfortable with using Thrive Architect through Thrive Themes. A lot of Thrive about to go on because I'm about to mention Thrive Suite. If you're curious on how you can get the website builder that I'm using, that you're seeing right now, that's being used in the free online course on how to build a law firm website, I'll provide a link to that down below so you can check it out. So with all that said, this is a lot, and this is kind of something that I hope inspires you to reevaluate your approach with your law firm website. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, or if you just want to say hi, leave those in the comment section down below. That wave was like really slow. Yeah, the hands and the mouth aren't going at the same speed, but leave those down in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the like button, helps support the channel, allows videos like this to rank higher, allows us to reach more people. Don't forget to subscribe. With all that said, I'll see you in the next video.